It was the night of March 31st, 2006, the start of spring break at Ohio State University. For 27-year-old Brian Shaffer, a second-year medical student, the weekend was supposed to be a chance to unwind. He had just lost his mother to cancer only weeks earlier, and his friends encouraged him to take a break from the stress of school and grief. That Friday, Brian and his roommate, William Clint Florence, began their night out with dinner and drinks, later meeting up with friends at a bar on Columbus's bustling High Street. Their last stop was the popular Ugly Tuna Saloona, a second-floor bar and nightclub known for its music and late-night crowds. Surveillance cameras captured Brian at 1:15 a.m., riding the escalator up to the bar. From that point forward, the timeline gets strange. Inside, Brian was seen drinking, laughing, and chatting with friends. At 1:55 a.m., security footage showed him stepping outside the bar, speaking briefly to two young women, and then heading back toward the entrance alone. And then, nothing. When the bar closed and the lights came on, Brian was nowhere to be found. His friends assumed he had left ahead of them, but by morning, when he didn't return calls or show up for a planned trip with his girlfriend, alarm bells went off. Police quickly zeroed in on the security footage. Multiple cameras monitored the entrance to the Ugly Tuna, but none ever showed Brian leaving. It was as if he had walked into the bar and vanished into thin air. Investigators considered every possibility. Could Brian have changed clothes, slipped out a back exit, or disguised himself to avoid the cameras? But the Ugly Tuna had only one main entrance, and its back door led to a construction site that was nearly impossible to navigate without drawing attention. For months, police scoured downtown Columbus. They searched hospitals, shelters, rivers, even storm drains, nothing. His apartment showed no signs of disturbance. His bank account and cell phone were never used again. Theories swirled. Some believed Brian staged his disappearance, running away to start a new life. Others thought he was the victim of foul play, possibly lured out of the bar through an unmonitored service exit. His father, Derek Shaffer, held on to hope for years, only to tragically die in a freak accident when a tree fell on him during a storm in 2008. The only surviving member of Brian's immediate family, his brother Derek Jr., still pleads for answers. More than 15 years later, the question remains: how can a man walk into a crowded bar with cameras everywhere and never be seen leaving? The case of Brian Shaffer is one of the most baffling modern disappearances, a mystery frozen in time, caught on video, yet forever unresolved. Now move to the next one. On the night of February 9th, 2004, 21-year-old Maura Murray, a nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, packed up her belongings, emailed her professors, and told them she'd be gone for a week because of a family emergency. But there was no emergency, and what happened over the next few hours remains one of the most enduring mysteries in modern America. That afternoon, Maura got into her black Saturn sedan and drove north, heading deep into the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Alone, she carried clothes, textbooks, and a small amount of alcohol. No one knew exactly where she was going or why. By 7:27 p.m., her car was found crashed into a snowbank along a rural stretch of Route 112 near the tiny town of Haverhill. A neighbor heard the impact and came outside. He saw Maura, shaken but seemingly uninjured, standing next to the car. She assured him she'd already called AAA, though phone records later revealed she hadn't. Minutes later, another local resident, a school bus driver, pulled up and offered help. Again, Maura declined, saying she'd called for assistance. The man drove home, but called police to report the accident. By the time officers arrived at 7:46 p.m., less than 10 minutes later, Maura was gone. Her car was locked, airbags deployed, and inside were some personal belongings, including a box of wine and beer that had spilled in the crash. But Maura herself had vanished into the cold February night. What followed was one of the largest search efforts New Hampshire had ever seen. Helicopters with infrared cameras scanned the woods. K9 units tracked her scent briefly before it disappeared abruptly, as if she'd entered another vehicle. But no footprints, no sign of struggle, no solid leads were ever found. Theories began to swirl. Did Maura plan her own disappearance? She'd been struggling with academic pressures, a recent car accident, and legal trouble over a stolen credit card. Some believe she staged the crash as a way to escape her old life. Others argue she may have accepted a ride from a stranger, or worse, encountered someone who wished her harm. Over the years, countless supposed sightings have been reported, from New Hampshire to Canada. None have ever been confirmed. Maura's family has spent nearly 2 decades demanding answers, organizing annual searches, and keeping her story alive in the media. To this day, no trace of Maura Murray has ever been found. Her disappearance remains one of America's most chilling cold cases. A young woman who drove into the mountains and simply vanished, leaving behind only questions, rumors, and heartbreak.